Hi, this is Stephanie Lotman of Tellybean Knits, and today I'm going to show you how to work the palm transition round for the left mitten. And I have just completed my cuff and thumb gusset for the left mitten. You can see here that I've got a left slanting line that's indicating that I've been working my left mitten. This line is shown here in CC2, which is on either side of our thumb stitches. So you can see these tiny little vertical lines. These stitches between this vertical line of CC2 shown here in white, these are going to be our thumb stitches. We're going to place those stitches on hold, and then these stitches that look like little flowers, little white flowers, those are going to be the motif that continues into the palm of our mitten. So I'm going to show you how we can transition from having quite a few stitches on our needles. Right now my needles are really loaded up after completing that thumb gusset, and how to place those thumb stitches on hold so we can continue working in the palm, which is one of my favorite parts of any mitten. It's so relaxing. So for this tutorial, you're going to need a tapestry needle and some scrap yarn. I have about 10 inches of scrap yarn on my tapestry needle right now, but whatever length you prefer. I like to have enough length for placing those thumb stitches on hold that the stitches are able to spread apart so I can try on my mitten as I go, and I can tuck that extra yarn, the scrap yarn, down inside my mitten so it doesn't get in the way when I am knitting. So right now I'm at the beginning of the palm transition round. If you've already worked your right mitten and worked the right palm transition round, you're going to see that this looks a little different. Not a lot different, but I just want to make sure that you understand how those thumb stitches get placed on hold. All right, I'm going to be working in my MC and in my CC3 for this round. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick those up. And I'm going to begin by working my transition round in the colorwork motif. So I'm going to start working that transition round. And once again, just a reminder that you want to make sure that all of your stitches are lining up properly in the established motif when you're working your palm transition round. So give yourself just some time to glance back and make sure all of those stitches are lining up properly. For me, my main color is the red, and my CC3 is the light blue for my palm transition round. If you watched my other video, you'll probably notice that I am not currently knitting matching mittens. I always have second mitten syndrome. If you've ever knit socks, second sock syndrome can be difficult to overcome and make sure that you finish those mittens and socks. I sometimes have second mitten syndrome and find it tricky to work the second mitten if they're matching, but if I mix up the colors and make them so that they are not matching, then I almost never have any trouble finishing the second mitten. So I've mixed up my colors. It's also a great way if your stash yarn does not have a lot of yardage. It's also a great way to use up more of your stash yarn and sort of by changing up the colors, it gives you a little, or at least me, a little extra leeway in what yarn I get to use when I am working a pair of mittens. I'm actually on mitten number 4 in this pattern. I'm just loving these mittens so much. I think I'm going to wind up knitting at least 6 mittens in this motif, in this pattern. All right, you're working this transition round until you reach your thumb stitches. Depending on what size you are working, that will be different. For me, I'm working in my palm transition chart until there are 23 stitches left on the needles. So for the adult small, it's 23 stitches. For the adult medium, it's 23 stitches. And for the adult large, it's 25 stitches. You can see here, the easiest way to know is to look for when the motif changes and you have this vertical line of CC2 that indicates that you've reached your thumb stitches. So I've now come to the thumb stitches, and before I place those stitches on hold, I'm going to cast on 2 stitches in my main color. You can see over here, also I want to point out, this is my beginning of the round marker. So these are my last 23 stitches in the round because I'm working the adult medium. Okay, I'm going to work 2 backwards loop cast on stitches in my main color, which is the red for me, rather than make it especially difficult for myself to hold 2 strands. I'm just going to go ahead and drop my CC3 for now, this light blue, while I work those 2 backwards loop cast on stitches. So I'm just going to cast on 1 stitch, and then I'm going to cast on 2 stitches. I'm just going to give those a gentle tug, and now I'm going to take my scrap yarn and I'm going to slip the first or the next 23 stitches onto my tapestry needle so that it can go on my scrap yarn, and I'm slipping those stitches purlwise so that I'm not changing the orientation of any of those stitches. And I've come back to my beginning of the round marker. I'm just going to pull my scrap yarn through, remove my tapestry needle, and then I'm just going to tie off the ends of my scrap yarn. You can see I still have plenty of room for those stitches to spread out. And now I'm just going to tuck that scrap yarn down inside my mitten so that it doesn't get in the way. And I just want to show you a few stitches from the next round so that you can see what I do as I move from the palm transition round into the palm chart. Now I've got quite a lot of little ends in my way. I'm going to move my CC3 out of the way because in the first round of my palm chart I am working in the MC and my CC2. I'm going to bring my stitches on my right and left needle pretty close together because I've got those backwards loop cast on stitches, and this is going to, like on the right hand mitten, it's going to naturally want a gap. We're going to try to reduce the gap as much as possible. You won't be able to get rid of the gap completely, but that's okay. You just want to reduce it as much as you can. So the first stitch on my palm is going to be in my main color. I'm just going to keep extra tension on that stitch as I pull that off the needle, and then I'll work a stitch in my CC2, and again I'm keeping extra tension there. I don't need to keep quite as much tension on this stitch because I'm not bridging this gap where the cast on stitches are, where we've put those thumb stitches on hold. It's actually just coming from a little bit below, and then I'm going to knit 3 stitches in my main color, and I'm going to keep extra tension on those 3 stitches, those next 3 stitches. You can see there's a little bit of a gap here, and that is okay. That is perfectly natural when you're working your mitten and thumb. That's going to start to close up as you continue working your palm, and then will work to close it up again whenever you work your thumb, and then you'll also be able to address that if you need to with any ends from joining in the round here. And so here, let me just show you where I'm at. You can see I've got my beginning of the round marker here next to those 2 cast on stitches. I'm going to flip this over so you can see what we've done. We've worked our palm transition round around here, keeping the motif from our cuff and thumb gusset in place. And then we've placed those left thumb stitches on hold for the thumb once we've completed the palm and the mitten top. And so that is what your mitten will look like now. I'm so excited to continue working the thumb. I'm really enjoying working this in red. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Thank you so much for watching.